Hello, citizens of the world. We are calling out all people opposed to Islamic terrorism worldwide to join our fight against their cyber terrorism. A just operation of Islam will be launching July 26th. We call out every hacker tired of the violence followed by cries of racism carried out by Muslims worldwide. The United States sees waves of homemade Muslim terrorism. Europe is being silently taken over. Join our cause, let them know we are not ready to give the world up to Islam. We give you an introduction to Islamic so-called passive terrorism tactics, based on an article by Raymond Ibrahim. Today's Islamic violence against non-Muslims in non-Muslim lands reflects what I call Islam's rule of numbers, a rule that expresses itself with remarkable consistency. The more Muslims growing numbers, the more Islamic phenomena intrinsic to the Muslim world. In this case, brazen violence against infidels appear. In the US, where Muslims are less than 1% of the population, London-style attacks are uncommon. Islamic assertiveness is limited to political activism, dedicated to portraying Islam as a religion of peace, and sporadic, but clandestine, acts of terror like Fort Hood, Boston, etc. In Europe, where Muslims make for much larger minorities, open violence is common. But because they are still a vulnerable minority, Islamic violence is always placed in the context of grievances, a word that pacifies Westerners. With an approximate 10% Muslim population, London's butchers acted brazenly. Yes, but they still invoked grievances. Standing with blood-stained hands, the murderer declared, "We swear by Almighty Allah, we will never stop fighting you until you leave us alone. The only reason we have done this is because Muslims are dying by British soldiers every day." Days later in Stockholm, which also has a large Muslim minority, masked rioters destroyed 100 cars and property. The grievance for this particular outbreak was that police earlier shot another machete-wielding immigrant in self-defense. Grievances disappear when Muslims become at least 35 to 40% of a nation and feel capable of waging an all-out jihad, as in Nigeria, where the Muslim majority north has been terrorizing Christians, bombing hundreds of churches and beheading hundreds of infidels. Sudan was an earlier paradigm, when the Khartoum government slaughtered millions to cleanse Sudan of Christians and polytheists. Historically Christian majority Lebanon plunged into a deadly civil war as the Muslim population grew. Once Muslims become the majority, the violence ironically wanes, but that's because there are fewer infidels to persecute. And what infidels remain lead paranoid, low-key existences, as Dhimmis, always careful to know their place. With an 85% Muslim majority, Egypt is increasingly representative of this paradigm. Christian Copts are under attack, but not in an all-out jihad. Rather, under the Muslim Brotherhood their oppression is becoming institutionalized, including through new blasphemy laws, which have seen many Christians attacked and imprisoned. Attacks on infidels finally end when Muslims become 100% of the population, as in Saudi Arabia, where all its citizens are Muslim, and churches and other non-Islamic expressions are totally banned.